Good morning, team. I promised you a video on Chapter 12 and the Congress, so that's pretty much what we're going to work on for the next few minutes. So let's start. First and foremost, let's make sure we do this right. When we talk about Congress, we are literally talking about the House of Representatives and the Senate. I know most people, even myself, most of the time use Congress to talk about quote-unquote congressmen. But that's not it. It's not just House of Representatives. Congress is both of them. Just like in Spanish, when you do arroz con pollo, that con means with. So Congress is the two of them together, okay? So make sure we know that. All right. Let's look at the particulars of the job. You get paid about $170,000 a year, and you get your retirement benefits. It is a very difficult job. It takes a lot from you. You have to be away from your family for a long periods of time. You also get a house and an office in Washington with a staff. So not that bad, not that shabby, but that's the particulars of the job if you're going to be in Congress as far as the financial benefits. And when you compare that to what the president makes about $400,000, so a little bit less than half. And that's a lot of people. And we need to look into what that means as far as population-wise. So each state gets as many people in the House of Representatives as they do for their electoral college votes, right? So if you look at it very simply, California has 53 people in the House of Representatives, but we only have 2 in the Senate, so the numbers get kind of fuzzy, okay? So anyway, the total number of folks in the House of Representatives is 435 as of right now. There will be more. Why? Because we're going to have more and more people. And as we have more and more people and populations get higher, different states will get more folks there. So for example, Nevada's input into the House of Representatives is larger today than it was maybe 40 years ago, simply because of their growth of their cities, right? And in some places, lose population, so they get less representation, okay? Now, let's talk about this thing based on gender and race. I mean, just by the pure numbers of it all, it is not a very diverse group of people as far as just gender and race. Now, am I saying that just because you have a particular gender or a particular race, that means you're diverse in your thoughts and everything else? No. They're black conservatives, they're female conservatives, they're older white men who are very liberal. So that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about pure numbers. And there's a chart in your book, obviously, and if you really want to look at it, you're staring down a situation where you have 363 of the 435 are male. All right, so that's an overwhelming number. In addition to that, when you look at the numbers of African Americans make about 10 to 12% of the population, and they're actually but directly correlated, or close to being directly correlated, because about 9% of the House of Representatives population is black, about 40. All right, and then when you take a look at Hispanics, 24. And again, for the whole country, that's not a insignificant number, and there are only about four Asians in that whole population of the House of Representatives. That means 4 out of 435. Right now, another thing that's very interesting is religion. There are only 14 people or 14 members of the House who say they are not Judeo-Christian. So when you look at it, you have 260 Protestants, 128 Roman Catholics, and 30 individuals who are Jewish. And then you have 14 who don't specify, or they're from another group. So there's so few people from other groups, Buddhists, whatever it is, that's not on that list. So you have to understand that the United States is Judeo-Christian and is being represented by Judeo-Christians, or individuals who say they are Judeo-Christian. That means a lot to public policy. So you want to know who your Congress people are, and what their backgrounds are and everything, because it does make a difference in the way they look at other situations. Now, in addition to race, gender, and religion, you have occupation. The vast majority of these people are lawyers and businessmen. As I'm looking at the list, it says 161 say they're lawyers, 168 say they're businessmen, and so that's huge numbers. These numbers pretty much correlate almost directly into the Senate, and so, for example, 94% of the Senate is white. 94%. Now that's a big deal, because that's a smaller group, a more elite group, and it's more white than than the House of Representatives is, based on percentage. You have two Asians in the Senate, one African American in the Senate, and I think there's only been about 4 African Americans, period, in the history of the United States allowing African Americans to even vote and run for office. So since 1870, we've only had about 4 or 5 folks who've been African American and in the Senate. And one of them actually got the job because they were taking over for someone who had just passed away, and so they weren't even elected into the Senate. All right, and then there are 3 Hispanics in the Senate, which is a very big deal. If you think about it, having 3 Hispanics in the Senate versus 1 African American, and you look at the new trends that are happening in our society, it'll be pretty interesting. All right, so that's the composition of the Senate and the House of Representatives coming together, being the Congress. Now, we're going to talk about incumbency in the next video. Thank you.